Tablighi Jamaat, A House Divided, Part 16, Author's Conclusion. Here we come to the conclusion of the author of the thesis that I based the whole of this series upon, Professor Pieri, and I give his conclusion. So what he mentioned in his conclusion was generally positive, but he did highlight certain tensions that exist within the TJ. So I take this directly from the conclusion, and after the conclusion, what I will be doing is giving you the appendix that he attached to his thesis based upon the works of an individual called Abu Ali, and that itself is very interesting to analyze how the trajectory of someone, a sincere seeker who wants to move through um, different spiritual faith communities, how his trajectory um, was, and ultimately the individual Abu Ali became an atheist post TJ. So stay tuned for that. In any case, Professor Peary states the concept of adaptation has been central to this thesis. It has been argued that the TJ is an organization that is adept at adaptation. That movement leaders in London have shown this through attempting to transform their modes of operation as a means of gaining permission to construct their proposed mosque. Now, he highlights this in red, and this really sums up the whole of the thesis, really. The leaders based in London have shown the ability to adapt. But as I've argued through these, well, it will be at 20 videos in total. As I've argued, this is this a phenomenon that occurred in London is an outlier. It's not something that you could say is uniform for the rest of the TJ. The TJ themselves are a backward, inward-looking, isolationist, non-progressive, and I would say ultimately doomed to failure movement, simply because it doesn't have the tools, the epistemology, the uh, members, the leaders, the uh, political, sociological, spiritual, philosophical outlook in order to deal with the modern world. That's what I've argued throughout this whole series. Peary himself says that Tablighi ideologies, they have their main concern as being that which is eternal, and a reorientation of life to the exact imitation of Muhammad and the early generation of Muslims. These are known as the Salaf Salih, and this is where people will conflate TJs with Salafis. But as I've shown, that's a that conflating those two movements and those two ideologies is wrong, and it's misguided. And for anyone who really wants to understand how Islam operates and functions, you will make that clear in your mind. Through Thursday Bayans, they instructed adherents to abstain from affairs of this world and to focus upon piety and self-reformation. Again, these are all praiseworthy things. I'm going on a lot about their negative things, but I will mention in the appendix that they do have positive aspects. But overall, they are quite negative in how they operate throughout the world. And TJ leaders become attuned to the here through engaging with the secular. So even though they are otherworldly, they try, and speaking specifically about the ones in London, to engage with that which is secular. But the big problem of um, this is not something that is uh, endemic, or it's not something that is intrinsically part of what the TJ is. The TJ is not um, a forward-looking and not a vibrant and dynamic movement. It's something that's actually quite moribund if you look at it. And here he quotes Wickham, and he says that the phrase is quite felicitous. Strategic moderation triggers changes in the public rhetoric and behavior of political actors that when reiterated and defended over time can produce change in their ultimate goals. To borrow Suzanne Hober Rudolph's felicitous phrase, the mask becomes the face. So it's quite clear, and I've added my critiques within this conclusion, but it's quite clear that Peary views this house as being divided, as I do. The Tablighis in Dewsbury in the north are not as progressive and dynamic as those who are in London. And those who are in London, in their case, the mask became the face. They had to put on a mask that's not actually who they really are. But through doing that, since for the past 8 years, since 2012, the mask has become the face. And I think overall that's praiseworthy. So stay tuned for the appendix and many more series in relation to the TJ and other religious spiritual movements.